tuned in to RBLR, the home of Tampa Bay's RBLR Sports.
Come on, you RBLR sports fans. How are you doing, guys? This is James Knowles with RBLR Rowdies, and I'm starting this show off a little differently because I actually got to attend my first game of the season, and I'm pretty excited after that. Leo, I don't think you were there, but I know that you were able to see the game and you were able to see them get out the 3 points in the end.
I wasn't there, unfortunately, but I did get to see them get the 3 points, and it wasn't pretty. It was a little bit far from pretty, but, you know, a win is a win, and that's all that matters. And, you know, it's the sixth win of the season for the Rowdies, and, you know, couldn't ask more than that.
Exactly. At this point, I think that getting the win was good enough, and I think that doing it in front of our fans in this great stadium, Al Lang, I think that will turn us around into even better opportunities in the future. But yeah, let's just get into it. We obviously had a game this past weekend on Friday night against Loudoun United. Loudoun United is the reserve team for DC United of MLS. And coming into this game, there weren't too many notes from any pregame stuff. We don't have too many injury updates to go through at the moment. But the one thing that we did have that was really important was that they were opening the stadium to near 100% capacity. I believe the attendance was over 6,000, and we'll probably get that number by the end of the show. But that is what we were looking at. And the biggest takeaway for everybody that I could see was that we had all of this fan support, and I think that will translate more and more to the players out on the field. It was really good to have everybody there, to have everybody singing, and it wasn't just the Ralph's Mob. They were getting chants all over the place from every corner of the stadium. But yeah, it was really good, and I was so happy to be able to finally take in a game there. We will get into the rest of the game, but beforehand, I know that we had some predictions from last week to go over. Mine was a 3-1 win, so I know I was wrong. Leo, how did you do?
You were about closer than I was. I predicted a 3-0 win, but you know, you were off by one goal. I was off basically the entire scoreline, so none of us get the bragging rights this weekend, James. But hopefully, we'll bounce back next weekend.
Yeah, exactly. We'll get into that game too, but I just want to emphasize how great a time I had when I was out there. I was able to hang out with our producer, Eureka, and, you know, I had one of those milkshakes that they have from Beans and Barler, one of the food trucks there, and I couldn't talk up the game any more than I have. It's just so much fun to go out there and be with people again. I highly recommend that everybody who can get a ticket does do so, because you're missing out if you are not attending these games. It's just such a good time, and luckily the Rowdies have been, you know, getting the results, even as you said, if it's not pretty. But Leo, why don't you get us into that? Why don't you tell us what you thought of the first half, the second half, and give us that play-by-play breakdown?
Yeah, for sure. Before we get started, I want to talk about the starting lineup. You know, over the previous two games, we've seen changes in formations, changes in players in different positions coming in. And you and I, James, we on the last podcast, we discussed from all the changes that head coach Neil Collins made, who was going to get the chance to get the starting position. And we predicted both Jordan Doherty and Jordan Smith to start in this team, while Lawrence White, who's still coming back to fitness after picking up a knock, and Steven Dos Santos, Big Dubo, who's still out. We don't know how long he's going to be out for, but he's still out. And Jordan Smith and Jordan Doherty picked up those places in the starting lineup, and rightfully so. You know, they did good. They did well in the roles the past two games, so they earned the spots on the starting lineup. But to start out the first half, Rowdies, you know, it wasn't going all good for Rowdies. You know, not only they conceded early, but before that goal, Rowdies were having sloppy passes. They weren't very good at playing out of tight places. But that all has to do because the quick and constant press from Loudoun United. You know, they just kept on pressing every single Rowdies player that had the ball. Didn't give them an extra second to pick the right pass or the person they wanted to pass it to. And, you know, we seen that very early in the game that it did affect the Rowdies really greatly, because Aaron Guillen just, I don't know if it was a pass or a clearance, but it was lazy and inaccurate. and it led to a Loudoun player, and ultimately that's what basically kickstarted the goal. Once Guillen makes that mistake, he tries to recover back, but he gets caught in a position, trying to try and cover an attacker in the middle of the field instead of staying out wide on the left, and that's where the ball gets played down that right hand side where Guillen's supposed to be covering in his left back position. Then that cross comes in, and Scarlett is just too late to react, and Robbie Dombro from Loudoun United scored a tap from close range. And Rowdies were in very deep trouble early in the game. After coming back to a full capacity crowd, coming back playing on your home turf, this is not the way you want to start out.
No, that's true. It definitely wasn't the ideal start. We were, the crowd was there certainly, and they were providing all the background noise. But I just don't know if the players were ready for the occasion, I guess it was, because they were definitely slow to get out of the gates and they were slow to wake up. I think that ultimately, they figured it out and they stepped up their game slowly as the half went by. But yeah, it was not what anybody would have wanted, especially like within 10 minutes. That's not what you want.
Exactly. And with Guillen, as we see one left back struggle, the visitors left back excels. Robbie Dombro was a left back for in the starting lineup for Loudoun United, and he ultimately got that goal. And that goal came against the run of play. Although the Rowdies weren't playing good, they did have most of the ball in however long it took for that early goal to come. But it just shows that Loudoun we're not scared to come in, press the Rowdies, and hopefully get an early goal. And that's exactly what they did. But after the goal, both teams, they had their share possession, but not really any real opportunity of scoring. We still seen sloppy passes from both teams. Both teams trying to figure out some kind of rhythm or still figure out how the other team's going to play. And in the 16th minute for the Rowdies, a lovely ball from Lewis Hilton to find Fernandez down the left flank to send him, in on goal in the 18-yard box. And Fernandez puts in a cross. And, the cross goes for Jordan Adebayo Smith, who, after scoring that goal against New York Red Bulls 2 and making a good cameo in the last game out, he just fluffs that one. It's like a sitter. I don't know how he did not score that and put the Rowdies back on equal terms with Loudoun United, but he really should have scored there, James.
I agree. I was sitting behind the net, actually, right behind the big supporter section for Ralph's Mob and Skyway Casuals folks. But yeah, I think that the whole section that we were in, looking right behind the goal, we were dead certain, all right, this is going to be the goal. This is the equalizer coming up right here. How he managed to put it wide is a little interesting. It's one of those things where I think the commentators might describe that as harder to miss than to make.
That's exactly what it was, actually, because you're right there. Where Fernandez put the ball in the box was where Adebayo Smith was. He had one half of the net open. The goalie was not going to get to it. Defenders were not going to close him down. There was only one way, that play would have ended was by a goal, but unfortunately it didn't. And after that, we continued to see Loudoun United to press the Rowdies back line, and we've seen throughout the first half that every time, usually when Louro has the ball at his feet, or you see Lasso, Guillen, or Scarlett passing it back to Louro, he usually picks a good ball, a good long pass to a midfielder or a striker. But in that first half, he just had to clear every single one out of danger, because he had the speedy attacker coming to press that ball, and he was just playing it safe for most of that first half. And you can't blame him, because just the Rowdies look very uncomfortable with that, and we've seen that in past weeks where teams just pressed them. It all starts with that back in they play against the Miami FC when. That early press, that constant press, it really harms this Rowdies team, and it seems like they still haven't figured out a way to get around it.
Yeah, I agree. It's unfortunate that is something that we are going to have to probably address as we move on here, because if we're getting this point into the season, it's not really early anymore. This is the point where we're supposed to be starting to pick up our pace and get into our stride. Is the metaphor that most teams would be looking to hit. But I think that if this is something that we're seeing, then either we need to look into some sort of changes possibly, or there just needs to be more addressing of that particular issue when we go through all the training sessions that are leading up to the next game and the next game and the next game after that.
Yeah, I like the point you made of addressing the issue. I think Neil Collins does have to address that issue because, we've seen it in recent weeks how it is harming this team, and we have conceded goals because of this. And,
Right.
we've seen it again in the 24th minute when Lewis Hilton tries to play a ball to Jordan Scarlett, a back pass, and that gets quickly intercepted by a Loudoun United player, and he's on goal. If he's on goal, he's getting ready to shoot his shot. But luckily, Jordan Scarlett makes a last-ditch tackle, and he blocks the shot, and the ball goes out of danger. And after that, we see that Loudoun, they're happy to sit back, absorb pressure, and just know that we'll hit you guys on the counter. At least that's how it was in the first half. But then we see the Rowdies, slow, not a lot, but just slightly getting better in their game. Passes are getting faster. We see more side-to-side play, switching the field more, and that's how the goal came about. Actually, the ball starts on Connor Anley on his right hand side. He gives it to the midfielders. We see the midfielders translated to Leo Fernandez, and Leo Fernandez, he's just teasing that right back from Loudoun, and he approaches the corner of the 18-yard box, takes a shot. It's saved by the goalkeeper, but then who's there again on the right hand side? Antley comes in. Instead of just shooting from a hard angle, he makes a smart decision, plays it back in the center where who else but El Capitan comes to clutch and equalizes for the Rowdies.
Yes, I was fine. We were all celebrating when this went in because there had been so many chances leading up to it where it was that thing where okay, this has got to be the one. This has got to be the one, and finally we did get the one. And the worst part was in the build-up, as you had mentioned, there was a play where ultimately the ball came in via Leo Fernandez on the left, and it missed everybody. We thought, okay, so that's going to be yet another missed chance, but luckily Connor Antley is there to clean it up for us and give it back to Seba in the middle. It was really good to see because it was, that build-up of, okay, here we go, and then the letdown of that's another miss, and then another build-up that actually led to some payoff.
Exactly, and after that goal, usually we see the Rowdies who are just like, once they get a goal, they up their game, they up their tempo, they're the team playing on the front foot. But again, that counterattack play from Loudoun, just hurts the Rowdies, and we seen players just dribbling easy through the Rowdies players. And there was a shot from Pietro from the visiting team, easily dribbling through the Rowdies players, like I just said, and he gets a shot, but it goes wide right. But it just shows that if you lose your focus just a little bit or you allow too much space to these players, they will punish you, because they feed off that counterattack play. They feed off of, the high pressing game. And before the first half ends, we see another close range chance for Jordan Adebayo Smith, and we think, all right, the first chance he missed is all good. Just redeem yourself later. You have another chance. You have players like Fernandez, Hilton, Doherty, Antley, who will give you more chances in the game to get that goal. But we seen a cross from Antley played, in the similar position where the cross comes in and Jordan Adebayo Smith, really there's only one way it can end, in the back of the net. However, he doesn't even hit the ball, goes through his feet, and just another good chance wasted by Jordan Adebayo Smith.
Yeah, this is something that ultimately it might be a little concerning, unfortunately. He is obviously a 20-year-old guy. That's going to be the way that it goes when you're dealing with somebody who is just out of their teenage years, There are going to be a lot of streaks in their statistics. They're going to be up and they're going to be down, and that's just, especially as a striker, that's the nature of the game. You're going to be the guy with the hot hand, and the next week you're going to be cool. But I think that he is just dealing with that, being a young player at a high-pressure position where if you don't show up on the statistics line at the end of the game, it might be considered a failure. And I think that might be weighing on him a little bit, especially when these chances are so close. And, it goes back to that thing that I said where it seems like it's harder to miss than it is to actually put it on net. And this is going to be something that they're going to be working training as well. Like I said earlier, the thing that you got to do is you just got to do it over and over and over until it's not even a second thought. You just know when it hits your foot, it's going into this corner or that corner. If he gets to the point where it's going to be second nature, then all of these chances are going to be great because the thing that they tell you about expected goals is that when a player has a lot of those, ultimately at some point they're going to turn into goals. And he obviously has had a lot of expected goals. We just have to wait for him to get to the point in his season where that confidence is right there and he doesn't even have to think about the shot.
Hopefully we don't wait too long, because we still have Big Duba out, and not only for the team's sake, but also Jordan Adebayo's sake. If he keeps on missing these chances, you have Langsdorf, who had the winning goal today. We'll get more into that later, but he had a winning goal today, and it puts a little pressure on this young striker on the team to keep his starting role. And before we move on to the second half, I wanna inside scoop, James. How did the crowd react to that missed opportunity by Jordan Adebayo-Smith?
I think that it was just heads and hands all around. It was everybody. Everybody was, again, one of those where they were dead certain this is going in. We got the first goal from Seba. Okay, so we're going to take back the lead now, like we have in all the other games prior to this, except for one. And nope, it was just shock almost.
I don't blame the crowd one bit. I was watching it from home, and I was shook as well, like twice. Like, once is accidental, twice is criminal. So it's like, one of these has to go in. But getting to the second half, Loudoun United almost repeated what they did in the first half, getting an early goal, and we see that in the second half when they caught the Rowdies on the counter, and a striker Bolivar, he's approaching the goal, and really. As Lasso and the rest of the defenders are holding their stance, Bolivar is just like, you know what? Let me just shoot it. So he takes a shot from outside the box. Luckily, it's saved by who else? Evan Louro, who has been saving our butts off all season long. And after that shot, we see, like I mentioned earlier, more switch of play from the Rowdies. Left side to the right side, back to the left side, back to the right side. Side to side play, more crosses in the box. And the Rowdies are pressing higher and they're looking more dangerous. But as they're doing this, they're also being more prone to counterattacks. And we've seen that in the 57th minute when the visitors, they have a chance to go ahead. And on the right side of the field, we see a Loudoun player who's played on goal from the right side of the field. And, as he's on there, Louro comes out to apply that pressure. And the Loudoun United player tried to chip Louro, but the ball goes over the goal. Luckily, it wasn't anything too serious. But after that chance, we've seen the visitor team becoming the better of the two teams for basically the majority of the second half.
Yeah, that was definitely my takeaway was they were dominating, and I don't like to see that going on, especially in our home stadium and in front of all these fans, because A, they expect better, but B, that's not going to work out if that's the way that things will turn out in other games when we might be playing a team that has a little bit more quality. It was the case today. As you've mentioned already, the counterattack had led to several very good shots for Loudoun United. And as much as those were, good saves for the most part from Evan Louro, or good last-minute tackles from the defender to block it here and there, if we get up against a team that has a little bit more quality, then we're going to pay for those. And, this team is not at the top of our division. In fact, they are at the near bottom of it. But if we allow this team to get all of these chances, then there are going to be teams who can take all those chances and then actually put them in the net. So that's something that we need to think about, and I am interested to see how Neil tries to counteract that this upcoming game, which we will talk about as we move forward in the episode.
Exactly, and one thing that I noticed from Loudoun United is that we see in the first half that they were just relying on their counterattacking play. In the second half, they were doing good on the counterattacking play, and also they were creating chances when they were having possession of the ball. And at the end of the game, for the statistics, Rowdies had 45% possession and Loudoun had 55% possession. So it shows you that there was a dominant team in this game, specifically in the second half, where the visiting team, not only were they good on the counter, like I said, but they were also good with playing with the ball, possessing the ball more and more. And Rowdies, head coach Neil Collins went to his bench to try change things up for a little bit. In the 64th minute, we've seen Jan Ekra come in for Zach Steinberger, and Sebastian Dahlgaard come in for Connor Antley. But before that change, there was a chance for the Rowdies to go on top. It was against the run of play because the Rowdies weren't the dominant team in that second half. We've seen Aaron Guillen making his way down the left flank as he usually does, plays the ball further down the left flank for Leo Fernandez, who plays a good cross to Guenzati, who's open in the middle of the 18-yard box, and does a terrific acrobatic header, but it's saved by the goalkeeper from the visiting side. And now it seems like maybe the Rowdies could get a goal on the counter, but it's not really their play. Their play is to dominate the other team, to possess the ball and make their own chances instead of waiting for the opposing team to mess up. And we've seen after that chance that Loudoun, they try to hit on the counter back to the Rowdies, but luckily Jordan Scarlett was there to make another slide tackle as he did all game long to cancel out any danger.
Yeah, and that was something that was a big aspect of the game in the end was, those last-ditch defensive plays. It was, if not Evan Louro, it ultimately came down to terrific slide tackles, like you just said, or if you, get a really good block off. That is what it required, because there were so many plays that Loudoun either broke through, or if they hadn't broken through, it was because they had actually pressed in the right areas and then stolen the ball right where they were able to get a shot off immediately. So this is something that the Rowdies have seen in the past, and just dealing with that is going to be part of being a team that is a dominant team in this league, because you're going to have the ball a lot more for the most part. Obviously, that wasn't the case this game, but usually it is the case where you will have a majority of possession, and teams are mostly going to get chances off of the press that they apply to you when you have the ball. So I don't know exactly how the Rowdies need to improve that to move forward and eliminate these mistakes. I might have just been a one-off anyway, but this game was certainly indicative of a problem that could be a much larger problem.
Exactly. And I don't know what exactly Neil Collins was thinking, but I would assume that he put in Jan Ekra in the middle of the field to cut out passes in place from Loudoun, to also keep some control and composure in the middle of the field. But that didn't work out. That didn't really work out, because we've seen Ku Di Pietro from Loudoun. He's just dribbling in the middle of the field, and as he's dribbling in the middle of the field, he outbodies Jan Ekra, shrugs him off, and then he gets a shot away. But again, as we mentioned, there were clear blocks and clearances by the defenders. This time it was Forrest Lasso who luckily prevents anything from being too serious. But I could just imagine Neil Collins being like, well, what else can I do? I put in a experienced veteran midfielder in the middle of the park, and he's getting outbodied by players from Loudoun United. So then Jordan Smith gets subbed off for new signing Langsdorf in the 74th minute, and still Rowdies can't catch any sort of rhythm. And in the last 15 minutes, the visitors, they're looking like the side that's more likely to get the winner than the Rowdies. And then Neil Collins makes another change as Sir Bell gets subbed in for Hilton in the 79th minute. And it seems like he's running out of options. But ultimately, we see a little bit better passes. Fernandez connects again with Guenzati, but Guenzati, has some great skill to turn away from the defender, but his shot goes wide. And then we see another ball from Fernandez getting out wide again. He tries to put a cross in, but it goes out for a corner kick. And this is the moment where we see the Rowdies equalize. Fernandez puts a ball, and he crosses in the ball following that corner kick. Forrest Lasso nicks the ball to, put it closer to the goal, and it's received Foster Langsdorf, who does a typical striker goal, being at the right place at the right time. He gets the slightest of taps to it, but it's enough for the ball to go in the back of the net.
Yeah, so when we were watching this game from the position that was behind the first goal, where the Ralph's Mob and Skyway Casual supporters sit, obviously it's a little harder to see when the game is all jumbled up in just the 6-yard box on the opposite side of the field. I didn't realize immediately that Foster Langsdorf had even been able to get on the end of it and actually put it past the goalkeeper. It was only when he was running away celebrating that I was like, oh, he scored! He scored! That's amazing! Because otherwise it was the case that there were just too many bodies all around him. As you said, he was obviously in the right place at the right time, and he loved it. He got his first goal for the Rowdies, and you could tell that it really meant something to the guy.
Mm-hmm. It meant a lot to the guy, because it was so meaningful to him that he took his shirt off and celebrating. Then he went straight with his teammates and just started, everyone started hugging him. Unfortunately, he did get a yellow for that celebration, but it just shows what it meant for him to get not only his first goal for the club, but also his first that, he probably didn't know at the time, but I'm pretty sure he felt it, his first winning goal for the club, to show why the club brought him on loan for the Rowdies, to help him win games like this, to help the Rowdies win games in where situations where it's not, the night is not going, it's not being the best night for you. Things aren't going your way. But with him on the field, he can prove that even if we're not having the best game, we can still pull a win. And towards that last 10 minutes and counting stoppage time, the Rowdies were just hanging on for a winner. And we've seen defenders and Louro just clearing out crosses, putting all types of danger away. Rowdies trying to hit on a counter or just go to the opposing side to waste time. And like you mentioned earlier, it wasn't pretty, but the Rowdies ultimately did get a 2-1 win, and it was enough that Foster Langsdorf goal was enough to see the Rowdies earn their 6th win of the season.
That's right, and ultimately, a win is a win. It may not always be the best game that you've ever seen. It doesn't matter what sport it is, you're going to see something like that at some point in the season. A team that, you might even be able to say doesn't deserve it in a certain case. They come away with the 3 points, and luckily that was the Rowdies. Those 3 points go to us in the standings, and I'll give a quick standings update. Actually, before we get into the analysis here, that win keeps us in the first place in the Atlantic Division. We are on 18 points from all of the games that we have played so far, only dropping points in that loss, obviously. And we are also first in the Eastern Conference, so that's what we need those 3 points to stay up with. We have competition that's biting at our heels, and it is trying to catch up. As long as we stay ahead of them with these wins, lucky as they may sometimes be, then that's what we need. But so let's get into how we thought the game actually was and break it down a little more than just what happened minute by minute.
Yeah, exactly. So, like we mentioned a couple times already in this podcast, in this episode, it wasn't pretty at all. But, winning an ugly 2-1 win is worth the same as winning a dominant 8-0 win. At the end of the day, it's still 3 points. You still remain in first place. So, even though this isn't exactly the kind of win the Rowdies would have wanted, returning back home to a crowd that's available at full capacity now at Outlang Stadium, they got the win, and I'm pretty sure, although it wasn't the first thought that Neil Collins was thinking, but he knows that as long as the Rowdies had got that win, that's really all that matters, James.
Yeah, exactly. And I can't say, anything else, because that's ultimately all we can take away from a game that was played this way. We were lucky in the end, and, the best teams, as they say in soccer, always find a way to win,
exactly,
even when they are not playing at their best. And maybe that's just the luck that we need.
Yeah, one thing I was hoping for to see in this game was to show that, not necessarily forget about Dos Santos, but show fans that when he's not on the field, we have someone who could do not the same job, but almost equivalent kind of job that Dos Santos did, and we could still beat teams without Duba on the field. But once again, we're seeing the difference. The difference Dos Santos makes when he's not on the field with his teammates. Several times we've seen Gonzalez drop deep, and there just wasn't you usually have Gonzalez and Dos Santos drop deep, that we have an extra 2 players in the middle field to collect the ball and make something out of nothing. But again, we didn't see that, and the chances that Jordan Adebayo-Smith missed, those are for sure goals for Dos Santos.
Yeah, those are 2 big things that you have to take into consideration, both the positioning of Gonzalez when Duba isn't there, and then the missed chances that we notice later on. It is definitely the case that in the first half, there was a lot of attacking going down the wings for the Rowdies. So it was usually Leo Fernandez and then Seba Gonzalez and one of Zach Steinberger or one of the midfielders from behind them, Lewis Hilton or Jordan Doherty, who were all trying to combine on the left wing so that they might be able to get in a cross and see somebody hopefully running in late to get on the end of it, like Zach Steinberger or possibly even Connor Antley, as happened for the goal. But there was a lot of breakdown in those plays. I noticed that many of them came to nothing ultimately. And as you noted when we were going through it, it was a bad pass down the left wing that ultimately led to the play where Loudoun took it down and then scored. So it's got to be something that either Seba is able to get down a little better, that he can provide that wall for somebody to pass it to and then receive it again from. Or they got to switch up the plays that they are trying to make there, because it just didn't seem to be particularly effective. And that might be the way that Loudoun United had themselves lined up. It might be the pressure of playing in front of your fans. I certainly thought that they were getting a lot more success down the right wing with Connor Antley, but I actually didn't see as much combination play on the right wing as I did on the left wing between those couple of players that I already mentioned playing over there. It's something to consider, because when Steven Dos Santos is up front, he is very good at receiving the ball with his back to goal. And there's usually a player on his back who's trying to kick the ball away, but he's able to hold that person off and provide a shield so that he can advance the ball up the field to the player who played it to him, or the player who is looking to get the next pass. I'm just not sure how well Seba does that, as much as he is usually the player who is making that second run and trying to get on the end of the next pass. It's something that I think that they'll need to work out, or possibly get somebody else to step into that role. Maybe Foster Langsdorf can come in and do that a little better. I'm not sure. But yeah, we'll have to see exactly how that will play out. And then, as you said, the other thing was the missed chances. They were criminal at times. I think that Seba Guanzati actually had a couple of missed chances that he should have buried. They were not as clear-cut of chances as those that Jordan Adebayo-Smith had, for sure, but he still was wasteful. And then when you look at those alongside the ones that Jordan Adebayo-Smith put wide, it's just hard not to think to the times that Steven Dos Santos was back there for the first couple of games of the season. You know, he had his wasteful moments, but they were certainly a lot more conversions than we saw last night, or on Friday night, obviously.
Exactly, and I like the point you brought up to where Dos Santos, when he's running with the ball and there's like a defender around him, you weren't worried that he would lose the ball. He would shrug off the defender. We've seen that with Adebayo-Smith on Friday night, that when he had the ball going forward and there was a defender coming at him, the opposing defender easily took the ball away from Jordan Adebayo-Smith, and again it just led to another quick counter or a good amount of possession play for Loudoun. So we see the difference he's making. And I also want to admit, I'm pretty sure most of Rowdies fans would admit, or any neutral fans who've seen the game, that Loudoun United were the better team. Their counter-attacking play was great. Their high press was great. And their, spells of possession, they did create opportunities with that. And I just thought overall, they were the better team. But there's this thing I've always heard growing up playing soccer, is that you don't got to be the better team to win. And that just haunted Loudoun United for this match. That although they were the better team, it doesn't mean you're going to win.
That's right. It is unfortunate for Loudoun in this case, but they will have to stick back at the bottom of the Atlantic Division for it. And you know what? Fair enough for me.
Exactly. For us, we're smiling. For them, they're like, damn, how did we lose this one? Or how did we not get at least a point after being one goal ahead? And I think it's important that Rowdies players know that, I'm pretty sure Neil Collins is already thinking of this. He probably has a whole tactics and setup for this weekend's match. We'll get into that shortly, but I'm pretty sure he knows that his team has to be better, because if it was, let's say, Phoenix Rising, if they're playing Phoenix Rising the way that the Rowdies play Friday night, they easily lose this game, and they probably get scored on more than once, and Rowdies don't get the chance to score on a tougher opponent. But luckily they faced against the last place here in the division. But like I said, the Rowdies do have to get better. We haven't seen a good performance since that Phoenix Rising game. After that, they faced a little bit dip in form. Ever since Dos Santos was injured, they've been facing a dip in form. But although they have been getting wins against stronger opponents, I don't think that'll be enough to go over the line and get another win.
Yeah, and like I said earlier, that is the concern. We got to see if these dips in form that you just mentioned, if this is something that's going to carry over when they're playing teams that they're not going to be able to beat when they're playing at this level. That's our concern right now. But I do want to mention, though, there are some good sides that we're seeing. I think that you had some notes here that you wanted to mention about where the Rowdies have probably improved over the last couple of games.
Yeah, for sure. And I would say, I don't know if this is up to the players or up to head coach Neil Collins discussing these things over practice and trainings, but the play of switching from the left to the right, had just gotten a lot better. Even when they're near the box, they still find a way, as we've seen with that first goal of the game. The first goal of the game, we've seen how they switched from the right side where Connor Antley was at to the left side where Fernandez was at. He goes in the box, and although it's a rebounded shot, it makes his way back to the right side. It just shows that the Rowdies, they can easily flow through teams' defenses by just switching the ball left and right. And Fernandez and Antley are providing the danger for the Rowdies whenever they both do start. They get in well behind defenders. They take on defenders really well. Specifically, Fernandez, we've seen in this game how he wasn't afraid to 1v1 defenders or even 1v2 in some cases. And we've seen a scenario with Connor Antley where it was absolutely filthy, where he just took on two players. Although he didn't go on to go further down the field, he did take on those two players. Something for his highlight reel, something to show off in the locker room. But we've seen that these two players, they know their roles in the team. They get out wide, putting crosses in the box, switch the play left and right if you can. And I think that right now is working well for the Rowdies. That kind of play is what I believe got them this 2-1 win against Loudoun United.
Oh, for sure. I have no arguments. All I have is agreement with that statement. I think that the side-to-side switching of play that you mentioned is very important because, if you have an overload on one side and all of the team all of your opponent's team is, against one sideline, if you're able to get it back into the middle with Lewis Hilton or Jordan Doherty appears to be the best at this, is finding these pinpoint crosses back onto the other side of the field where there's a lot less pressure. And that's why it's possible that I think Antley had a lot more of the success going through those attacks in the first half that I saw. Because it was definitely the case that when Seba and Leo and Lewis Hilton or Zach Steinberger were all trying to combine, and Aaron Guillen was getting in there too, there was a lot of pressure and they were all bunched up. And that's where either Duba and his strength comes into play when he's here, or if you can get it back out and recycle the play to the other side of the field, that's another tactic to get involved. And I definitely think that having that ability to switch the play and include both of your wingbacks is super important, because I think Antley was just stellar today. He was actually on the pregame press conference along with Neil Collins. They usually have players there too, and he mentioned to all the people on the call that other than looking forward to seeing the stadium back at near full capacity, he mentioned that it was the case that he thinks he has grown more in his time in Tampa than the previous couple of years that he's been a professional. And I mean, that just speaks to how well he has done, I think. He knows it, and, all of us fans are pretty aware of it too. It's very evident on the field.
Yeah, he even said, like you said, he was excited. He was one of the players to really be excited to come back to All Link Stadium and play against a large crowd as they open back to full capacity. He was really excited to do that, and I thought he performed greatly on that pitch. And one thing I do want to mention is I'm going to bring the mood down a little bit, but I want to get into the questions we have here, specifically two players, Jordan Adebayo-Smith and Aaron Guillen. I want to ask you, James, what is wrong right now with Jordan Adebayo-Smith? We've seen him score against New York Red Bulls too, and we think, this guy locks the starting lineup. Gets a start today and just misses two clear-cut chances.
Yeah, I think that when we were discussing him earlier and specifically discussing those chances, I mentioned that he's a 20-year-old player, and he's just coming into his first real full season as a professional. When you're that age, it might be the case that you're breaking through from the academy team into the senior team and trying to actually work with the big boys. And This is the first time that he's doing that consistently, and I think that really might be affecting his consistency here when he's actually shooting, because young players have a tendency to the best way to put it, I guess, is float in and out of games. You might have it where a player is really heavily involved, but if they're just new to playing in this type of environment, then they might not know how to keep themselves fully concentrated for an extended period of time, or whatever the case may be, where ultimately, they're going to have a lot of sloppy plays. And this is just something, if you watch the U20 World Cup, if you watch the U17 World Cup, you're going to notice this kind of stuff a lot, where it's a really good build-up, and then, the final pass, that's where you lose your concentration and you play it the wrong way. Something like that. And I think that's what we're seeing, especially with the 2 shots for Jordan Adebayo-Smith. It was just the case that there was a lot of good build-up. He got himself into great positions, which is something you need from a striker, because if you don't get them into positions, you're just going to have, wayward crosses going to nowhere. He was actually able to get on the end of them, and then he was not concentrating enough for the final play to actually put it into the net. Unfortunately, it might just be the case that, with his age, that's something that'll happen, or it might be something that he needs to build up a little bit more confidence. It's probably a little bit of both. Things can be more than one thing, obviously, and I think that's what we're probably seeing, if I had to guess, from my outside perspective.
I would agree with you. If the Rowdies would have tied or lost this game, I feel like Adebayo-Smith would have, his confidence would have dipped really, really low, because he knew if he put those 2 chances away, they would have never been, in the position to tie or lose the match. And although he did make it harder for his team, luckily his new signing, Foster Langsdorf, bailed him out this time. But next time, we don't know. Whether we don't know if it'll be the same result. So I think, he needs to increase his confidence. Because if he is to get another start, as we see Foster Langsdorf, train more, become more familiar with the play that the Rowdies have established, that means Jordan Adebayo-Smith will continue to start. But he needs to put away these chances to keep that lineup and not only be there temporary until Langsdorf, understands everything. Because if that happens, if he keeps missing those chances, I don't see him, starting again. And also, we got considered when Lucky and Kosana come back and Juan Tejada come back, it's going to be harder for him to break into the starting lineup. And even when Dos Santos comes back, he might just keep on dropping down in the pecking order to get that striker start. So, I just hope he raises his confidence. He is a talented young player. The talent is there, the skill is there. It's just, can you have that composure to put away those goals, in game? Maybe in training he scores goals, but it's a different scenario when you're playing in the game. So hopefully he just picks up his confidence and puts some chances away.
Yeah, I agree. I think that, the good thing is they did win the game, as we've said, and that was after a very tough loss that the Rowdies had. Mm-hmm. It's very important when you have a game like that you can get a bounce back effect, and even if the game wasn't exactly the way that they would have wanted it to go, because I'm sure that any of them would say that. They weren't firing on all cylinders, so to speak. But if you still get the 3 points, then, that's what every game is for. You're playing to earn those 3 points. And as long as they have, I think that's going to provide the effect that we're hoping will give them the confidence to go into the next game. And then, if Jordan Adebayo-Smith, whoever it is stepping in, they know that they've got this cushion of 3 points above the next team. Even if they miss one shot, they'll probably get another shot because they're on the team that has gotten this far and they're doing very well. That's just the way that they got to look at it. Is you got to be, in the moment, living for the game that you're in, but you got to know also that this is a good team and you're going to get more chances. Don't hang it all up on this one that is at your feet right now.
Exactly. And another player I want to talk about, it's a very hot take, I'm going to say, but I believe ever since that Phoenix Rising game that Aaron Guillen had, he did good against Phoenix Rising, but I feel like after that, he hasn't really been the same. We see Aaron Guillen being caught out of position. We see him, with his passes, he tries to do like these long through ball passes or over the top long passes, and it isn't as accurate as it was in the beginning of the season. And we're seeing, early today, early Friday night in that game that he was caught in a position. He did, a clearance or a pass. I don't even know what it was, but it went to the opposing team and it came back to bite him. And he was, luckily, whenever he is caught in position or he does give the ball away, it hasn't turned into goals. But this time it did. But I kept my eye on it the past few games, and the reason why I haven't really spoken about it is because it didn't lead to any goals, but this time it did. And I just think that Neil Collins needs to keep his eye on that. Work with Aaron Gee and get him back to the form he was early in the season, and that way, we won't see Rowdies getting shooting themselves in their own foot or getting into any early trouble situations like they did Friday night.
Exactly. We all know who have followed this team, not just this year, but last year, that Aaron Guillen is a very good player at this level. Last year, Forrest Lasso won the Defender of the Year, and Jordan Scarlett was on the second team All-USL. So, those are two recognitions that our backline received. I always thought that it was ridiculous that Aaron Guillen wasn't included on that because I thought that his 1v1 defending was brilliant all year, and we've seen it still. But you're right that there are problems at times, and especially this game where there are just wayward balls every now and again, and it might be something that he needs to rein in. It might be something that he just needs to get a little sharper, and I think that that's something actually that all of the Rowdies players can work on right now is they need to just play with a lot more accuracy. And that's obviously easy for me to say sitting here in front of a computer looking at a bunch of notes, but I would like to imagine that based on the way that the Rowdies have played and based on the way that the Rowdies played to start the season, they know that they are capable of a lot better passing sequences, and they know that they're capable of a lot better passing accuracy than what we have seen. It was wayward all game, and I think that Aaron Guillen is one of the examples of that right now, but he certainly isn't the only one. I think that will be something that they're going to focus on, is trying to get that concentration back when you get to the final part of a play, which is your pass off and you give the ball to the next person. Then you obviously want to move and you want to get open again, sure. But to have the ball at your feet and find the next person with it, you just need to concentrate throughout the whole time that you have it. And that's where they've been lacking, at least in this game, the most. So I would like to see, or this game and Charlotte, I should say. But yeah, that's something that they can all work on. And I think that Aaron Guillen will do so because he has shown himself capable of reaching that level, just like the rest of the team has.
Exactly. Yeah, 100%. I agree with you on that one. And we have a question here that was this a good way for the Rowdies to bounce back after their loss in last weekend? But I'm pretty sure it probably wasn't the right way to bounce back. But they did win, and pretty sure they'll be looking at the standings and know that we're still in first place. We're still the Rowdies. We have 6 wins already. So let's just let this one go and let's just move forward. And like you mentioned earlier, in order for the Rowdies to get better, which is another question we have here, for the Rowdies to get better, they need to be more accurate, more sharper in their passes. The side-to-side play is working for them, but they need to work, to be more composed and more clinical in that final third, whether it's the strikers or whether it's midfielders getting to the box or Fernandez and Antley cutting in to take a shot. They need to be more clinical because if they don't, they will get punished. So, yeah. But I want to ask you, James, how the hell is Loudoun in last place with that kind of performance against the Rowdies? Like, how is the team? Do you think it's because they felt an extra motivation to play against the Rowdies because they were top dogs, or do you just believe it was like a fluke that they just played this good?
Well, this is something that goes back to what I was saying about Jordan Adebayo-Smith, actually, is that their team is mainly made up of players who are just out of college at the oldest. When your oldest players are 23, 24, and most of them are younger than that, you're going to get those streaks and you're going to get those lapses in concentration that we saw mostly with the Rowdies. I think that that's probably got a big role in their lack of success this season so far. But, it is definitely the case that when you come to play against the Rowdies, they're the top team in the league, the top team in the East, the top team in your division, you're going to have a lot of extra motivation. Teams often play up to the competition that they're playing, as well as when teams will often play down to the competition that they're playing. And the Rowdies are up for everyone in the league. They're leading, obviously. So when you come to play the Rowdies, you have to play up, and I think that was kind of the way that it went for them. But fair enough. We'll see if it lasts. We'll see if they kind of catch some spark to move into the next couple of games, and we're gonna face them several more times this year. So we're gonna see exactly what kind of team they ultimately are.
Yeah, hopefully it was a fluke and the Rowdies could just, dominate from the first minute to the last. And finally, our last question here, James. Who was your Rowdies man of the match for that game Friday night?
Well, I got a couple statistics that I want to go through to make sure that we do this properly. I am choosing Connor Antley. Connor Antley is the player of the game for me, and that is based on the pass accuracy that he had. He had made 80% of his passes, and the other thing that he did, obviously, was get the assist. One of those passes was an assist into Seba's feet for the first goal. And that wasn't the only goal, or the only chance that he created. He also created the most chances. He won 7 duels over the course of this game. All of that taken into consideration. And then when he was off the field, you could also see a little bit of a dip, I felt. So, that's what I got to say for Connor Antley. He showed me that he is, as he said in the press conference, he is improving in Tampa more than probably anywhere else in his career.
I would agree with that. Unfortunately for my pick, I did not dig out some statistics, but I would say that I did respect Connor Antley's performance. He got that assist to get the Rowdies on level terms, and he just was a menace down that right flank. Provided a lot of trouble, a lot of crosses. But my man of the match has to go to Leo Fernandez. Just as good as Connor Antley did, I believe Leo Fernandez did the same. He took that shot that rebounded to Connor Antley's, but without that shot, that goal probably would have never come. And Leo Fernandez could have gotten an assist if Adebayo Smith was a little clinical. You could say the same for Antley. Antley could have gotten an assist if Adebayo Smith was more clinical. But I just think, because Leo Fernandez did play the whole game, and from the first whistle to the last, he was hustling. He kept on running down the left-hand flank. He would come back to provide some defensive support. He was still trying to find passes in the 88th minute, 89th minute. He connected very well with Guenzati. He could have had another assist of the night if one, Adebayo Smith makes that chance, and two, Guenzati makes that header from close range before the goalie fortunately blocks that. But I have to give out my match to Leo Fernandez. I thought he performed really well, although he wasn't on the score sheet for a goal or assist. He did look like the best player out on the field for me.
Okay, well, I think that's fair. But that should take us into the next game that we have coming up. There is a game this Saturday at home again, and this one is at 7:30. As I said, if you can get tickets, I really highly recommend it. The atmosphere inside Al Lang is so great. It's so much fun to see the fans section all chanting literally the whole game, and they are getting the rest of the stadium to join in their chants. And I would love to see even more people showing up as they continue to reopen the stadium fully. This game against Pittsburgh is coming up then, like I said, and we want to go through their season so far very quickly so that we can get you out of here. They have played 7 games so far, 2 wins, 2 draws, and the rest obviously are losses. Their last 2 games they lost at home to Austin Bold from Texas, and then they drew with Miami. Now obviously we had some trouble with Miami, so it's a little difficult to say exactly what that means for them moving forward, but we can look at the rest of their games too. The last time we played them, we won 3-0. That was the second game of the season, and they were still kind of getting their rhythm. I really highly doubt that another 3-0 win is on the cards here, because they are certainly more in their stride than they were at that point in the season. And they also play tomorrow. That is against Indy 11. So it might be the case, much like the Rowdies when they played against Charlotte, that there is some turnover between the team that they have playing tomorrow night on Wednesday and then the team that they have playing Saturday night against us. So It remains to be seen exactly how that will go. But yeah, their formation is actually very similar to ours. They have mostly played with three in the back, switched it up when they need to, obviously. And then, not that you can say that one player is a like for like with our player, but Bernardo Forbes reminds me a little bit of Jordan Doherty in that he is the central midfielder who will often be pinging balls up to the attackers all around the field and trying to put them in good positions. So that's something that we got to look out for, as well as the attackers themselves. And it is similar to when we played them previously. Those guys to look out for are Alex Dixon, Albert Dikwa, Russell Cicerone. They've had a pretty good set of games so far this year, and their back line that sits behind Bernardo Forbes is very strong. Very tall players, and they've all been very good at the back so far this year. They've had a couple of slip-ups, obviously, just like the Rowdies, I would say. But, I think that it's something to. I think that it'll be something to look at when we see how they apply the lessons that they have learned, and the lessons that they will have learned from watching our most recent game. And then the other thing that they got to take into consideration, like I said, is the players that they need to use during their game Wednesday night against Indy, and then their game Saturday night against us. But that's what I'm looking at. You got anything to add to our Pittsburgh preview here, Leo?
No, I think you covered it all. Besides that, last time we played Pittsburgh, we won 3-0, but like you said, it's not the same team. They're in 5th place. They do have 8 points from 7 games, but they're obviously in a far better position now than they were when we played them, because it was the first game of the season. Now they played a few games now, so they must be in some sort of form, strat, or rhythm, whatever you want to call it. And it's not the same Pittsburgh team we played in the beginning of the season. Hopefully it is. It'll be the best case scenario for all Rowdies fans, but it won't. And I think now it's time for our predictions. James, you want to go first on this one?
I will go first. I am coming off of this game where the home crowd was there to try and lift the spirits of the players, and I think ultimately they did enough in the end to put them in the position that they got the win. And I'm at least going to chalk it up to the fans because I was there. But this time I don't know if I'll be able to. I might be back home helping with my family again, and I'll try to make it out to the next home game that I can. But if that crowd is just as lively as they were, they'll probably be even more lively. Frankly, it's the same thing hitting their stride. It's a lot of people back for the first time, and they got to remember exactly what chance they need to yell and when. So I'm hoping that this is going to be a dominant win, powered by the crowd, and I would like to see a 2-0 result for the Rowdies.
Okay, I like it. I was going to go with that one, but again, I wasn't, because I don't know if I trust the Rowdies right now to not concede a goal. I feel like we're going to see more pressing from Pittsburgh. That just seems the way teams are approaching the Rowdies now at this point of the season. And, hopefully Neil Collins does address this issue of being comfortable playing against teams that press high. But I think we might see Langsdorf come in for Adebayo Smith. Maybe Adebayo Smith might get another chance. We don't know yet. But my prediction, I'm guessing another 2-1 win for the Rowdies.
Okay, a 2-1 win would still be 3 points either way. I think that there are definitely arguments to be made for one or the other result, though. But I definitely want to see a win regardless. They should come out and they should know that this is, after 2 tough games, they want to show the fans that they are still here and still at the top of their game.
I couldn't agree more with you, James.
All right, well, that should do it for us today. Thank you, listeners, for tuning in, and please, like I said, get a ticket if you can go to the game. If not, tune into us next week, because we will have all this same analysis and more coming up.
Yeah, thank you, listeners, for your time. We really hope you get out there and go to the game. I haven't been to one yet. I'm looking forward to this summer. Full capacity. Get your tickets. Go support the Rowdies. I can't wait to get my ticket and support them. And finally, because I've been talking about them for ever since the show started, and I just really want to get on that in the stadium and just feel the total atmosphere from the fans that I hear every single time on ESPN Plus. And I can't wait to go to a game and just support my Rowdies.
Exactly. All right. Well, yeah. So that will do it, and I want to go through now. Please check us out on at RBLR Sports on Instagram and on Twitter and on Facebook, and you can follow me if you'd like. I am at RBLR James K on Twitter, and can they follow you there, Leo?
Yeah, they can follow me on Twitter at _LeoSantos__.
All right. Well, please like and subscribe to our podcast. You can follow us on Spotify, iHeartRadio app, Apple and Google Podcasts, as well as YouTube and all other major podcast platforms. As always, come on, you Rowdies.
Come on, you Rowdies, let's go.
Thank you for tuning into this presentation by RBLR Sports. On your way out of the stadium, please remember to like and subscribe.